Hey, everybody, welcome back to the PAC-South podcast. And we are here with our 2026-2027 college football preview. Pat, we're going to go straight into our headlines around the country before we dive into our actual conference teams. Um, Hearing some news out of Texas, I'll let you dive into that a little bit more as you know on that.
Yeah, I mean, Texas is just like, I don't know. I feel like they're the Buzz Kings at this point. It seems like every year of the Sark era, right around this time of the summer, we get into the hype factory or the hype train. Like last year was the Arch Manning hype house where everybody was kind of like guaranteeing Arch was going to run away with the Heisman. Texas was going to win the Natty after they had made the CFP with Quinn Ewers the year before. Um, we know that did not happen, right? Didn't sort of go according to plan. Excuse me, for Texas last year, but I feel like a lot of the hype this year is coming around the fact that Cam Coleman is in town now, right? They went out, they spent a ton of money getting him from Auburn, guy with proven SEC talent, proven SEC success. And I've saw couple different national reporters post that video. Some of them posted it as a still picture of him making the catch last week in practice. Did you see that where he's like jumping up and
I did
grabbing it
not know.
one-handed? Insane vertical. So now the
It's
hype
got to be
train,
worth 2 Texas wins.
yeah, exactly. Right now the hype train's like, well, even if Arch makes a crappy pass, look at this guy.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, I just feel like the hype train is out of control right now at Texas, and we are fortunate enough as fans that we are going to find out real quick if it's worth it or not. Right? Last year, we noticed Arch was super uncomfortable in that Ohio State game week one. They got Ohio State week one again this year in Austin this time. So strap in, get ready. I think it's going to be an awesome ride. But yeah, we are once again at. I don't even know if we can do the Texas is back joke anymore. I feel like
Unfortunately, it's been killed for like a decade and a
yeah.
half.
But we are at that point of the year where, the media is running away with, is Texas the best team in the SEC? Is Texas the best team in the country? Et cetera, just because of the consistency Sark has built. And now the fact that, I mean, based on his stats, based on his profile, we can probably anticipate Cam Coleman is going to have success. But I think how much success is still TBD.
Sure. Let me pose this question to you. I mean, obviously 14-7, kind of ugly game the way it like transpired in Columbus. If Texas is able to kind of pull out an ugly win, does that pose the same Ohio State won that game last year. They ended up having a good season.
Mm-hmm.
Texas still good season, but not by their standards.
For sure.
If Texas can be on the other side of that this year, should we be expecting that? I mean, certainly the talk will be there, but should we realistically expect that?
I'll say yes, because I do think Ohio State is one of the best teams in the country from a talent perspective, right? Like it's always, kind of the joke that like, what are they going to do? Are they going to live up to that talent and actually succeed with Ryan Day, et cetera, et cetera? Right. But if you're beating a team that good, and actually I think it's week 2 this year, not week 1. I think they have Texas State week 1. But regardless, if you're beating a team that good early in the season, that's always a good sign, whether it's sloppy or not. And I mean, the SEC schedule is the SEC schedule. I'm pretty sure they have LSU and I want to say Tennessee this year, in addition to Ole Miss and Oklahoma. I think are like 2 of their more permanent.
Well, and they'll have A&M to end the season as well.
And A&M, of course, right? So like, it's going to be a grind, but I think if Texas can get through this season at 2 or less losses, they're definitely going to make the playoff, just because of the pedigree of the SEC. I know you and I kind of talked about this off camera, but definitely the respect that the conference gets in terms of the committee alongside the Big Ten.
Sure. So speaking of conferences, we'll slide over to the Big 12 now, still very much in Texas for the most part. This question coming from Utah. Um, well, question statement. Kalani Sitake has come out in the last week and said he needs more money for the football
Yeah.
roster. Obviously, they are very much backed by Crumble Cookie. They have some good donors at the university. Do you think this is fair for him to say? From my point of view, BYU is now positioned to be the best team in the Big 12, part and thanks to Brenden Sorsby's departure from Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this is BYU's conference to win this season. I could be wrong. What is your perspective on this ask?
I won't talk too much about how I feel about BYU. I want to talk about them in a later section in terms of talent and stuff like that. But from a pure NIL perspective, on one hand, I understand it because really across the Big 12, besides Texas Tech, if you look at the budgets and the spend, it's nowhere near top programs in, let's say, the SEC or even a mid-tier program in the SEC that has a lot of money, a la Auburn, right? I mean, obviously it's a top name, but the success hasn't been there recently. It just doesn't line up financially, right? So I understand what Coach Sitake is kind of talking about in the big picture, right? But like you said, I think they're in a very, very strong position right now in the Big 12. They're coming off a Big 12 championship appearance where they were, not as good in the Big 12 championship, but they had hung right there with Texas Tech all year up until that point. And I don't know. I think this is a team that can build for the future, but I think that's more about keeping talent once it's there, unless you are going there and you are of the LDS faith. Do you want to stay in Provo, Utah, or do you want to make more money and go to, I don't know, North Carolina, right? I feel like that becomes a question for non-LDS or non-Mormon players who are on the roster. And we've seen the basketball program spend big, right? They spent to get a really expensive roster last year. So I think it's a fair ask in the landscape of college football right now where, money's crazy, right? And I know there's attempts to regulate, but we really haven't seen anything come to serious fruition yet.
Sure.
So until we get a salary cap or something along those lines, I don't know. I think you got to commit as many resources as possible to succeed at the Power 4 level.
For sure. And speaking on not just this season, but let's assume next season as well, do you think that BYU has just as good a chance, if not maybe better, in the Big 12 for how they're currently built before more money? Obviously, more money would only help their situation. But would you not say that even looking at next year, we don't know what Texas Tech does, but BYU's still right there 1-2?
Yes, I would definitely echo and agree with that sentiment.
Okay. All right. So interesting there by Sitake. Obviously, more money helps in college football in 2026, but
how much? Right?
maybe let's check the room a little bit. Yeah. But also, never know. BYU could have a little bit of a down year, 9-3. That would be a disappointment for them now. Which, if you look back a couple seasons ago, 9-3 in the Big 12 is a disappointing year for BYU.
That's a pretty good spot to be in. Yeah.
I was about to say that's a pretty good spot to be in. Obviously, not what you want because of it being a disappointment, but not what we thought we'd be in. One final around the country thing before we go to our buying and selling segment once again. This time we're going to be in the PAC-South Conference, actually. And we're going to talk about Lenora Sellers. The hype train has continued to go on him after a down last season. I assume that people are just only attached to his breakout year 2 seasons ago. He has the intangibles. Athletically and physically, he should be one of the top picks in the draft this upcoming season.
For sure.
However, we saw a less than bowl game appearance campaign last year. Very tough schedule for the Gamecocks this year. Do we buy the hype on Lenora Sellers?
I feel like that's a tough question, right? Because I feel like you can buy the hype on Sellers as a player, but maybe doubt the idea of South Carolina as sort of this dark horse. Like there has been buzz about that that I've seen on ESPN a little bit. Obviously, living in South Carolina, our radio stations are a little bit biased, so that's been kind of circulating on a few of the sports radio stations here lately. But I'm gonna say yes. I buy the idea that Sellers is an extremely talented quarterback. Um, but I don't buy that that's going to lead to, I'll say 9 or 8, maybe even wins this season for his football team. I think during the offseason, one of the big things that hopefully they've been working on with Sellers is the idea of pocket awareness and pocket presence. Because, the O line was not great by any stretch last year. But if you look at some of those sacks, especially some of those fumble sacks, he kind of set himself up for those mistakes by not having a great feel of the pocket. That also then led to him sometimes bailing out of the pocket too early, but not fully committing to his legs, which helped him in that breakout campaign 2 seasons ago. So I don't know. I think with a new OC, a new system, that I believe will use his legs, use the RPO a little bit more. I think we are going to see a good year from Sellers himself. But I'm still a bit skeptical for now on the Gamecocks.
Okay. And kind of one thing I want to say, obviously it's unofficial, but wins are kind of a quarterback stat.
Yep.
You go back, South Carolina's prior quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler did get drafted. Later in the draft, obviously. I don't think Lenoris would fall that far regardless, just based on physicals. But if that's the case, you have 2 quarterbacks that get drafted in a row and they fail 2 out of 5, possibly 3 out of 5 seasons to make a bowl game. What does that say about the South Carolina program and Shane Beamer? I feel like that very much becomes a telling point of the current state of the program.
For sure.
You can't have 2 quarterbacks drafted in a row like that.
And I don't know. I think that's where the question kind of becomes. Obviously, I think there's been a lot more goodwill during the Beamer tenure than during the Muschamp tenure, but that was kind of a big theme of the Muschamp era. Was there was a lot of talent on those teams, but they never seemed to really reach the levels expected of them. Obviously, it fell apart really, really quickly for Will Muschamp.
Yes.
And we haven't seen that depth of suffering, let's say, from Shane Beamer quite yet in terms of wins and losses. It hasn't quite approached 2020 Gamecock football yet.
Well, they only played 10 games. The other 2 wins were in the other 2 games.
True. So I don't know. I think this season is very, very important for Beamer for the future of the program and sort of restoring some of that confidence.
Bowl game or bust?
In my opinion, yes. However, I think when you look at the schedule for next year, unless you have a lot of confidence in your NIL resources to fundraise around a new coach, that is a tough schedule to walk into in 2027 as a first-year coach who is potentially losing a large portion of the roster, including your star quarterback, and having to rebuild, put systems in place, things like that. So for me, as a fan, I would go, bowl game or bust. But I have a sneaking suspicion that might not be the perspective of Jeremiah Donati.
Could be hiring a few other coaches throughout this season as well. He could be a busy man. All right, that's enough on South Carolina. We will talk about them more later with our full conference outlook.
Sure.
let's buy and sell some teams. I will
Do it.
start us off in the new Pac-12. I'm going to be buying the Boise State Broncos. I think this is a very fun team. They have continued to build and grow post Ashton Genty. Sure, they did take a little bit of a step back because you have a guy who literally carried your entire program, and they were able to build on that last year a little bit, but you don't see that in the record. I think moving over to the Pac-12, this being the first season in that conference as it's like come back to life. I think Boise State has a lot to prove and a lot to gain from this. So I really love the Broncos this year. Could make a chance at an outside playoff appearance. Really depends. I do believe they have Oregon on their schedule this year. We'll have to see how that matchup goes for the Broncos. But I really like the Blue Turf boys this year being a little shocking and sending some messages in the Pac-12.
Okay. I like that pick. They were one of my potential choices, actually,
Okay.
that I was kind of kicking around and thinking about. But since we're outside of the Power Four, I'll go with my non P4 buy here as well. And I went with Navy, actually. Um, Navy is, believe it or not, projected as the top team in the American Conference this year. And I feel like a lot of that is because of question marks around the futures of Tulane, USF, and Memphis as they all sort of try and replace successful coaches, right? For me, I feel like Tulane probably has the best roster in the conference. Um, but do I have confidence in Will Hall as a head coach? I don't really know, right? Like that went really bad really quickly at Southern Miss. Um, so I think we are going to find out, is it a money problem for Will Hall or is it a coaching problem for Will Hall? Now
Yeah.
that he has those resources and has a really solid team roster wise at Tulane. But Navy's a good roster. They had a really good season last year, returning a good amount of contributors from that roster. So yeah, I'm excited about what the mids can bring to the table this year. Dark
Okay.
horse,
Very
dark horse CFP contender for me.
okay. Interesting. Did not have Navy on my radar at all. I'll move over to my Power Four buys here. First one being in the SEC, and I'm going to take Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is going to
Okay,
be a super, super chippy team. This is year one fully under Pete Golding.
right.
And I don't know what it is. There's something I admire about Golding. Like he's just so like kind of rough football
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
in a way. Interesting dude, don't get me wrong. But there's just something about him where he's just so direct with it and very much like, this is how we're going to play. This is how we're going to do things. This is how we're going to operate.
That's fair. I like
And
it.
I mean, it didn't take long for him to really take control of that team after Kiffin left. And I mean, it very much was like, yeah, no, you're either on us or you're against us. And that was literally his selling point for was it Kwan
Lacy.
Lewis? I'm blanking on his name.
Lacy.
Lacey, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Literally the selling point is like you see what they did to Kiffin. You want to be that or you want to stay here? Like that's just directly how it's going to be. Like you either want that or you don't.
Yeah.
And I mean, he just tells it how it is, and there's something kind of admirable about that. He takes it to his players straight up, and that's very much how they play and operate. We saw that in the CFB. I think this year, especially, a lot of emotion will go into that LSU game early,
For
but
sure.
I think that there's going to be kind of a hard nose about them post that game because there's no way there's not emotion there. But after that game, I think is where Ole Miss is really going to thrive. And 10-2 Ole Miss, they're in the playoff.
Yeah, that's a totally fair projection. I think Ole Miss is like one of those teams where the roster's there. I think Golden's the guy. The CFP definitely proved he knows how to coach in high stakes scenarios.
Indeed. Yep.
So yeah, I really like that pick. I really like where you're looking there. I'm probably going to go with another team that was not on your radar here. Um, but I don't know. I think they're a fun team to kind of consider and look at, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They've got a ton of talent. And this is the Louisville Cardinals, actually. Um, yeah, yeah. As you guys can see, this was not scripted and rehearsed beforehand. Thank you, TJ, for that reaction. Uh, but I don't know.
Hey man, if this works, this is going to be an all-time clip.
Yeah, I mean, clip this. Kentucky fans, bring it back to me if it flows up in my face. But I think Louisville has, I'm not saying it's a great chance, but an outside chance to win the ACC this year.
I hope you know when 3-8 Louisville goes to Kentucky, I will be tailgating with the Wildcats.
I'm just saying, they've got Isaac Brown, who is a really, really solid running back. Their transfer quarterback, Lincoln Keinholz, hope I pronounced his last name right, is getting a lot of like Heisman buzz, which I was not really anticipating. But we know that Jeff Brom can build an offense. The question is, will the defense have a pulse this year, right? Because the defense definitely let them down in a lot of games in a lot of ways last year. They could have been Virginia last year if the defense could stop anybody that decided to run the ball up the middle. So I think that's a big question mark, but I have confidence. I don't know if we're supposed to like talk about odds and things like that, but I have a lot of confidence in Louisville over their mark of 8.5 wins this year. That was set by Vegas. So I am buying Louisville stock.
I got to look at their schedule here.
It's actually not that bad.
They, albeit it would be an upset, they could start 1-3.
See, I don't have as much faith in SMU as other people may.
See, I think SMU could be threatening once again. I mean, I think they do have the second most expensive roster.
They do, for sure. And Kevin Jennings is a really good player. But I don't know. That defense had a lot of question marks last year. And like you said, I know they've got money. I know they were trying to shore that up. But I know it's stupid. I don't know. Give me the card.
I mean, because I don't want to only put emphasis on expensive rosters because like that does come back to bite you very quickly. But also SMU was in the playoff 2 years ago. People forget that. They played at a very good Penn State team. And I think, to be honest, if they would have drawn one or two other teams, they may have gotten through the first round and had a win.
Yeah. And they got a little unlucky in that ACC championship against Clemson, where they could have had a much more favorable, first round matchup.
That is true.
I don't know. I feel like all right, for those of you who are not looking at the schedule like TJ and I are, they start with Ole Miss on, I believe, a neutral city. I
think it's in Nashville,
right? That's probably a loss of full transparency here, right? But besides the SMU game, there's not really another opponent on that schedule that I'm not sort of confident that Louisville will have more talent than, right? Like, we know that Wake Forest overachieved last year, and that was an awesome story, but I have confidence Louisville can beat them. Florida State got no confidence in Mike Norvell, so I have confidence that Louisville can beat them, right? And then it's really kind of like the dregs of the ACC, besides Pitt, down the home stretch there. And Pitt under Pat Narduzzi is always a question mark and always a wild card. If they get consistent quarterback play, that could be a really scary team, or it could go south really fast. So I don't know.
I look at that schedule and just the caliber I'm putting into Louisville this year. I see lots of toss-ups. I mean, yes, Stanford at home is great because the 3-hour ACC rule is way too obvious.
Yeah.
There. Syracuse on the road, I don't they always get an upset win there. Always get an upset win every year. So I don't love that for them. Florida State, I'm with you, not great. NC State could be. Wake Forest, probably a win. I mean, they're not 3-8 going into Kentucky, but like
I don't
how
know.
I look at it, if the way they look at the toss-up games, it could be
Could
a
get
bowl
ugly
game
quick.
or bust game.
It could definitely get ugly quick on me.
So
So we shall see
very
how this
interesting.
ages.
Obviously, very polarizing bye right there. I don't think we've ever contested a buy or sell that
I
much.
don't think so. No, usually it's pretty like, I can see that.
Yeah. All right. So I'll go into my final buy, and I don't think this will be much of an issue nor a talking point because we talked about them already. My final buy is going to be BYU. The opportunity that they have in the Big 12, doors wide open. Money or not for Coach Satake, I love the Cougars in that conference.
That was my final buy as well. So we are
Well,
aligned. We are
there you
aligned
go.
on that one. Dang, I should have
Okay.
saved Louisville for last, so we could have had some good conversation to end.
Yeah. No, Cardinal fans are punching
Hyped.
air right now.
Hyped.
All right, we'll move over to ourselves, and we will go back to the ACC here, and I'm going to sell Clemson. A little bit of hype for the ACC again this year, but to me, Dabo Swinney is a walking NIL and or PR nightmare for college football players in this day and age. Literally quoted the other day saying, "We're just a bunch of somebodies. Hopefully, hopefully anybody turns into somebody or something like that." And it's like great, like you need to prove yourself on the field. Like that's definitely the message he's going for. However, you literally coming out of fall camp at this point now, going, we have no one stands out. There's no one notable to talk about. Is not really
Not
a
what you want to hear.
signature of confidence
Yeah.
from your head coach as a player. And he's trying to coach everyone as the unit, but I mean, you do need to single out like your star players. And if he can't signal out his star players here 3 weeks before the season starts, that really is kind of signaling to me that they don't know or have anyone that they can consistently call upon to make the play. So, and this is a wide open ACC again this year. And if Clemson can't live up to the hype that they're kind of being brought up again this season, what does that say about them with the state of I feel like the 2010s Clemson completely gone now, if that is the case.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. I don't think this is a great Clemson team. So it shocks me to kind of hear this notion, but like there is some like soft buzz, let's say, around them as kind of like not really challenging Miami, right? But maybe being like that second ACC team that can backdoor their way in to a potential playoff. But I don't know. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a tough season for Clemson in trying to, let's say, like reestablish that identity, right? Like I was shocked when it came out that they were ranked 23rd in the preseason poll.
Yeah, that was quite shocking. I did not feel like that was an earned ranking, more of just a reputation.
Here we go. Yeah, like I mean, the fact that I don't know, we'll talk about them when we talk about our PAC-South teams, but the fact that they're getting more respect than a Florida team that I actually think has the potential to be intriguing this year really is surprising to me. So, yeah, I agree with you there. I'm not selling Clemson, but I totally see why you would. I will follow suit, though, and do another ACC team so we can kind of pair up the conference here.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Georgia Tech. So,
no Haynes King.
No Haynes King. Lost both your coordinators. So that's a lot of continuity off the roster. I like Brent Key. I think he's a really good coach. I think he's really passionate about being at Georgia Tech. But I see this as like a 6-win team this year. And coming off 2 really good seasons in a row, that's not exactly the follow-up that you want. So that's kind of why I'm selling the idea of Georgia Tech, even though they might not be getting the same level of buzz, respect that Clemson is getting right now.
Fascinating. Okay. I can't say one way or another. They're kind of my spoiler team for the ACC. I feel like they're going to be good enough. It's like Pitt a few years ago when they did make the ACC at like 7-5.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the feeling I have for Georgia Tech this year. But of course, divisions are no more. So not seeing a 7-5 Georgia Tech team make it to Charlotte. All right, I'll move over once again. A second Power Four team for me, and I'm not going to talk about them much because we already did. Texas Tech. Sorsby's departure is killer for them. I think they will still be a good team. However, going into this season, it was, man, Texas Tech, they're going to make the playoff. They're going to be really good. Final Four team and one or two upsets, and they win the national title. Very good team, very good roster. Go out, spend a bunch of money on a quarterback who can't play a game for you.
Tough.
That's just awful for Lubbock, but, that's the situation they're in, and I got to sell them. Still a very good team, but 8-4 is a hard disappointment if they end up there.
For sure.
Yeah. Sorry, Red Raiders.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I don't know. Texas Tech is like a weird team for me to kind of like put a label on or put a understanding on. It's like I feel like the rest of the team has enough talent where they could theoretically win 9, maybe even 10 games in this Big 12. But like we talked about, I think BYU is the favorite now. And I don't see them beating BYU in the Big 12 championship if they were to make it that far. So yeah, definitely a disappointment coming off of last year, coming off the buzz of getting Sorsby out of the portal. Yeah, understandable sell there. I'm going to sell a team that lost their quarterback for different reasons. He just got finally too old to play college football still. So you might be seeing where I'm going with this. The team of one of our Heisman finalists, Diego Pavia. I am selling the Vanderbilt Commodores. I think it's been a great story what they've done the past 2 seasons, making Vandy respectable in the SEC, and I'd say over respectable last year, right? That was a solid team.
Very good team.
I think people might have overrated them a little bit just because of how bad they had been in the past. But still, it was a good football team. I think they're going to take a step back this year. They've got a hard schedule this year as well, which doesn't exactly, do you any favors. So yeah, I'm selling or I'm fading Vandy a little bit here. I just can't see them replicating that success. Kind of similar to Georgia Tech, right? This is probably fading back to like a 6 or 5 win team for me this year.
Clark Lee or Brent Key?
Like, who would I want moving forward?
Who would you want as your guy?
I'll say Clark Lee for right now, just because he won with less. Like, nobody gave a crap about Vanderbilt football. And I mean, even Diego Pavia, when they got him out of the portal from New Mexico State, it's not like he was this heavily sought after, heavily recruited guy, right? They saw something in him. They felt that they could create a system that maximized his talents, and credit to them for doing that. So for that reason, I'll go with Clark Lee instead of Brent Key. Also, Clark Lee did it in the SEC. Brent Key, not to any fault of his own, right? But the ACC has been down the past 2 seasons.
Indeed. All right. Fair enough. My final sell, and this is back to a group team, and we also spoke on this team earlier. It is Tulane.
Okay.
I do not like the cop-out hire coordinator that they pulled here. I think that was stupid, really. Tulane's been a very good team for a while. I mean, they have New Year's 6 wins against Southern Cal. They've had a very good roster. They made the playoff last year, and their only loss being to one of my buys again for this season in Ole Miss. that was their only 2 losses last year. Like, very good program, has been building, building, building. And then you tell me that the best you can do for a head coaching hire is just a guy who was you picked up off the street as a coordinator because he got fired at his last job. That's the best guy you got. Like, I get maintaining culture, but and I'm blanking on the guy's name right before him who just went to Florida.
John Summerall.
Summerall, yes. You can't tell me Summerall's culture is in Will Hall because Summerall did it in Troy in 2 years. He did it in Tulane in 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
that is his culture. Will Hall is not that culture. And I think that this is a big miss on the hire. I don't love their roster going into this year, and I think that Will Hall as a coach is only going to make that a bit worse. So it's a sell with regret for our motion, but also this just needs to be done. This could be they could be in threat of not making a bowl game.
Yeah. Kind of like I said in the Navy bit that I put forward, where we really don't know what the American's going to be this year. Like, it's just a huge question mark.
It is. First time in a while, I feel like, too.
Yeah, because, I mean, they've been solid since the conference was founded. It took a little bit of a dip early 2020s, but it's been back the last few years in terms of, good young coaches, decent amounts of talent, things like that. But I don't know. I feel like we're really, really up in the air right now because, again, we don't know what Tulane's going to be. You are not super confident in them. Memphis is a big question mark, right? I'm pretty sure Aaron Noland is projected to be their starting quarterback. And
I do believe that Memphis, of all the higher American programs and programs that lost their coaches, I do think Memphis has the most stability.
Yeah, that's fair. And they're also building a pretty solid NIL program and trying to get funding for that. So
just revamp their facilities too, put a lot of money into the Independence Bowl.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been kind of going back and forth on my last sell. And if I wanted to do like kind of a similar team to Georgia Tech or Vandy, where I just think they're going to regress, or if I want to do a team that I think is going to fall short of expectations, and I decided to make this fun and go with the latter. So I'm going to go with a team with lofty expectations, and they spent a lot of money on their coach this year. They spent a lot of money on their roster this year, with the precipice of getting back to being a national championship contender. And I don't see that happening in year one. So I am actually going to sell Lane Kiffin and LSU.
Very nice. I was like, he's building toward it. He's doing it. He's going to do the thing.
So,
which, honestly, poetry, since I went with Ole Miss, we did not talk about that.
I was going to say Ole Miss fans are pumping their fists right now. But I don't know. Like, I think this is more of a, yes, NIL helps you build quickly. Yes, Lane is a phenomenal coach. But I feel like the SEC is super deep this year. And they've got a fairly tough schedule. You know what I mean? Like, they've got Texas A&M this year. They've got Auburn in Alabama this year. They've got, obviously, Bama. They've got Ole Miss. They've got Texas. Like, there's a lot of places for them to trip up. And if they're not careful, they've got a night game at Neyland, like the second to last week of the season. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of landmines to navigate there. There's already this press storm swirling around the team since Lane Kiffin was announced as head coach. Easy to get distracted if you're a player. I don't know. I just don't see LSU doing what they hired Lane Kiffin to do in year one. So that's why I'm going to sell them.
We're in agreement that a 9-game SEC schedule is not smart, right?
Yeah, definitely not.
Okay.
I mean, it's good for money. But
Good for money, but like I mean,
I think it
the
hurts the
committee has
conference.
the committee has said like a 9-3 SEC team, they're not getting in.
Right.
So like 9 wins or 9 conference games for what? I mean, you go 10-2 with 8 games in the SEC, you're still
You're
making
good.
the
Yeah.
playoff.
I think it is going to hurt the SEC in terms of like trying to stack the CFP with as many at larges as possible. Because now, if you've got two teams, like you said, that are, let's say, like 9-2 going into that final week, where maybe before one of those other games that they lost could have been against a random FCS team in the middle of November before we start ramping up for rivalry weekend and things like that. Now you've got an absolute grind with a few breaks, albeit from September through November, right? And I don't know. I think it's going to hurt the conference, especially like those mid tier slash like dark horse type teams that maybe could have gotten hot and made a run and benefited for one more weaker out of conference game that they're not getting anymore.
For sure. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how the SEC persists. I'm bamboozled by it. I guess they're following the Big Ten model, but like the Big Ten, you also it's such a big conference now.
Huge, huge.
You kind of do need to have 9 games because depending on how they draw, Wisconsin's down. You could catch a Minnesota team that's like
They're
meh.
froggy. Yeah.
Northwestern is like building, so like that is not what it used to be. You get a Purdue. Next thing you know, like you have more than half your conference schedule that's not great. You go to the SEC, you catch like a down South Carolina, a down Vanderbilt, a down Kentucky, and that's like your max.
Yeah.
That's your max.
And, I mean,
or like a down Mississippi State.
I was going to say Mississippi State's a question mark too, but like they could be good this year. We don't know. And I don't know. I think that's a huge risk because, like, even though they did not win a ton of games last year, Mississippi State played a lot of good teams very closely. And is that worth a potential dock on your resume? Where even if you win that game, but you don't win it pretty, and let's say Notre Dame beats the crap out of Rice, they're probably going to jump you in the rankings.
Yeah, I mean, Big Ten makes more sense. SEC, like literally some of those in conference rivalries are playoff games every 2, 3, 4 seasons, depending on who you are. Like Missouri, Arkansas, not as much because Arkansas has been down lately, but Missouri very much a playoff contender. Auburn, Alabama, every 2 years is a playoff game. Texas A&M is basically a playoff game. Mississippi State, if they figure out whatever's going on at head coach, basically. But I mean, you go back 10 years ago over with Dak Prescott, number 1 team in the country. Egg Bowl was a big game. I mean, these are playoff games in conference before even a conference championship game. So, like, there's no real need for 9 games. But I digress. I'm selling the 9-game SEC schedule. That's my fourth sell.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get off the soapbox. We'll go into our PAC-South conference rankings here, and we're going to go 14-1. We did expand a little bit, as we mentioned last episode. I will dive right in with my number 14 team, who was also our cellar dweller last year, and that is the Charlotte 49ers. I don't think they're as bad as they were last year. I think they will be a little bit better. Case in part to a questionable American Conference. I think they do steal a couple wins this year, but I unfortunately think that 3 wins is the ceiling for this team. So I have Charlotte at the bottom again.
Same here. And for the same reasons where, yes, they are better. I do think if Charlotte gives Tim Albin the time, I know since I went to a Charlotte game last year, I get blasted with emails constantly asking about NIL fundraising. So if they get that money and they give him time, I think that they can find success in the American, especially for the size of the school, right? Like, yes, it is a big school, but it doesn't have like massive facilities. So they are punching above their weight a little bit for a relatively new program. feels weird still saying that, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. I won't go on. They are my 14 team as well.
Okay, my number 13, and this might make you upset. I'm going with the Beavs of Oregon State.
Ooh,
I
come on, man.
I don't love it. As first year head coach, they were down bad last year,
very,
just
very down
putting it
bad.
plain. The Pac-2 rivalry game last year was entertaining for all the wrong reasons. Um, and I think, unfortunately, for Oregon State, they will not make a jump like I think Wazoo will this year. I think Oregon State will stay right there at the bottom, if not second to bottom of the Pac-12. That new stadium, it hurt. The Pac-12 originally falling apart when it did was brutal. They were literally funding this massive new facility at Reser Stadium.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. They owe millions of dollars toward it. So anything that they can use to fund the football team, part of that needs to go to the stadium to be able to get that squared away. So unfortunately for the Beavers, they're in a very tough spot with their football program. So I think we will see that at number 13.
Yeah, as a Beavs enthusiast, that hurts me to hear, but I do not have them very far from where you have them. So I definitely see your point. My 13th team, this might hurt you, TJ, as an enthusiast of this program, but I'm going with the Chippewas of Central Michigan. Um, there were signs that were definitely positive last year. Um, played close in a few big rivalry games. Um, First year head coach, so like there was that confidence that this can carry over and builds. I don't know. The MAC's just such a weird conference. So much wildness happens. I just can't confidently say that they're going to win 8 games, let's say, or 7 games, right? Like a 7-5 team could play for the MAC championship. That's how the conference works, right? So I don't know. I never feel confident predicting MACtion. And so for that reason, I'm just gonna slot the Chippewas at the bottom end of the totem pole. The roster also isn't super great. So yeah, it could get tough for the Chips.
Yeah, it very much could. I echo your exact same sentiment from the reaction about Oregon State. However, my number 12 is my first power team. It's going to be Boston College.
Ooh, okay.
I don't love the Eagles. Yes, they did rework their roster thoroughly, especially when it really needed to after last season. And obviously, you go back 2 seasons losing Thomas Castellanos. To me, that was a death nail for the program in its current state. Losing Thomas Castellanos to Florida State, because to me, you look at Florida State, there's not a lot offering, money, but Boston College actually did have a little bit of stuff going on in the
Yeah.
football program. There were glimmers of hope. They played really well. Just their defense decided to turn into a gaping hole whenever they needed to actually make a stop.
Yeah.
So that was their biggest thing. I think otherwise they were a 9-win team a couple of years ago. I think they were very fun and very good.
Indeed.
Lose Thomas Castellanos, fell apart, reworked it. I don't think this is going to be the right answer. I feel like there is a culture vacuum right now in Chestnut Hill. So I don't think that Boston College will get a lot done in ACC play this year.
Sorry, I don't know what happened to my microphone there. Yeah. I think
He's back.
Totally a fair estimation on Boston College. Like for me, they were a wild card, and I took maybe a more positive swing on them, just because I really don't know what the ACC is going to be like this year. Like I feel like the ACC is going to be like 3, maybe 4 solid teams, and then just like a whole bunch of mid to bad. So that I feel like they can sneak a few conference wins because of that, and as a result, kind of bump up our conference standings.
Sure.
Yeah. So my number 12 team is the Beavs, for all of the reasons that you mentioned. Yeah, it hurts to see because Oregon State, when things are going right, is such a fun program to watch, such a fun program to root for. When they get the chainsaws going at Reser, like fires you up, you know. even as a neutral fan. Um, but yeah, it's not good in Corvallis right now, and it probably won't be good for another 2 to 3 years. Um, yeah, we've talked about Oregon State enough, so I won't dwell on that.
Okay. Well, you putting Oregon State there shows you just how much more of a homer I am toward my teams than your teams. This is where I slot it in the Chippewas. I don't think they will be. And no, they might be. I don't know. This is very much a team in the MAC that is fighting for a bowl game. I was about to say they're not going to be abysmal, but
Who knows, right?
I mean they could very much fall to 3-9. They could be 7-5. I think a 7-5 campaign with this team would be good. Um, I just really don't think there's going to be a lot of toss-up games that they do win. So I think the Chippewas will have a rough season, as did you.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Unfortunate for two programs that you and I kind of really enjoy watching, have sort of connections to soft spots for. The next one that I'm putting in there, I'm only putting in here just because, like, I didn't really know how to slot them with the way that points are allotted for
Mm-hmm.
our conference. Um, so this is the only FCS team that is a member of the PAC-South, and that is the Montana Grizzlies. So I really do think that the Grizz are a good team, great FCS program. I just I don't know. It's tough, kind of like we saw with Oregon State in baseball this year. When you're not getting those
Right.
conference points, like for in their case, FBS conference, um, it weighs on you a little bit, and you really
Mm-hmm.
have to do something come FCS playoff time if you want to make up that gap on some of the other teams. I do think this is a team good enough to make the FCS playoffs, good enough to potentially win it all. Um, but I don't know. Like I feel like it's like one of those weird things where this team could go 11-1 in the FCS, and maybe like a crazy upset takes place, like we saw last year in the FCS playoffs. They lose round one, and then they just don't really rack up that many points. So that was kind of my apprehension with Montana in terms of our conference.
No, I think that's totally fair because I slotted them in right here at
All
number
right.
10. Yeah, I mean, I think that if stars align, they could, if they win the national title and you have a few extra teams drop back than what we're anticipating, I actually think the conference as a whole will improve in the PAC-South this season. Um, stars align, they win the national title, they could maybe make it all the way up to third, but like that's their ceiling. I don't think they can win the conference at all. That being said, I think there's one or two losses in the regular season. I still think they make the playoffs. I just don't love them to make a huge run. I think best case scenario for this team is the semifinals, but I think that's totally where it ends. I don't think they can make it past that point.
Yeah.
Of course, we will be there for senior night in
Bang,
Missoula,
bang.
so we will definitely be able to get a temp check on the Grizzly and
Yes.
really see how they are doing. You never know. Maybe the energy will be in the air. Maybe they'll be talking national title. We don't know. But for now, they're my number 10.
Yeah. I think we both kind of see it the same way. Really great FCS program. It just kind of hurts the way our points are accrued. All right. So my number 9 program is another team that I really
Okay.
had a tough time thinking about, like, where do I want to put them? And it is an FCS newcomer in North Dakota State. So,
Are they your number 9 or number 10?
oh, shoot. Hold on. Oh, I skipped a team. My number 10 is Iowa State. My fault. Hand up.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Hand up. Yeah, Iowa State is that low for me. Mainly because I just don't know what we've got to work with here when it comes to Big 12 play.
Sure. Okay.
Right? I mean, like, the roster, there's a ton of turnover from the Campbell era. Yes, they have a veteran quarterback in Jalen Rayner, who was at Arkansas State for a few years. But, I mean, is that going to translate to the next level easily? I don't know. This was a weird team for me just because they could be decent. I'm not going to say really good, but they could be decent, or they could be like 3-9.
I mean, they definitely are a very variable team for sure.
I don't know. I think that the thing that hurts them in my eyes is a lot of our points come from rivalry game wins, especially. And I don't see them beating Iowa or Kansas State this year. So that kind of eats into their projected totals, for me at least.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. And as you said, you're number 9 as well at North Dakota State. That is also my number 9. I think it's going to be very fun to watch them play in the Mountain West this year. I think, realistically speaking, they are probably an 8 or 9 win team.
For sure.
Unfortunately for that program, as great success they've had lately, still a very, very, very good team. I don't think they're coming into FBS with one of their best rosters they've had in the last decade. And to be honest, I think it is more on the bottom half of talent in the last decade for this program. So I think they'll still be very good. I think they can compete in the Mountain West, and I think there for a bit they will be right there at 1 or 2. Realistically speaking, I think they will be just outside looking in as a conference title game. 8 wins, a 3rd or 4th place finish in conference in first year in D1. I don't think Bison fans, they could be mad at it because they're used to winning, but realistically, I feel like this is
it's
a good spot to be in for year 1.
For sure. That's what I was going to say. It's a good transition point. You don't want a scenario like some of these programs we've seen where it's like really rough year 1, really, really good year 2, and then abysmal year 3. Sam Houston State. Because that's just not sustainable. But like, I don't know. I think North Dakota State has the pedigree that some of those teams that made the jump didn't. And that will kind of help them retain some talent as they work their way through FBS play in their first few years here.
For sure. I do want to go on note this next little stretch here for the next 3 teams. This is my gauntlet run here.
Okay.
I think any of these 3 teams could end up realistically in any of these 3 spots. Bottom of these spots, I think, is disappointing year. Top of these spots,
good year.
Is a successful year.
Okay.
And I'm going to start that number 8.
Okay. And are we gonna rapid fire these, or are we gonna kind of go one by one?
We can rapid fire it because I think most of these teams will still be in the same spot for you. One could be off.
Yeah, I think one that you already put, I've got here, but I think we're kind of pretty closely aligned.
Okay, so I'm going to go 8 Florida.
Ooh.
7 South Carolina. 6 UCF. So obviously that Florida South Carolina, I have that as a direct matchup this year. I think South Carolina does eke that one out, and I have UCF at 6 with another growing year in the Big 12, year 2 under Scott Frost. If they don't grow, I think that's just, unfortunately, the program did not translate to the Big 12 the way that they wanted. Scott Frost is still the guy for probably 2 more years for UCF, but the program is not where they want it to be after the success they had a decade ago.
Yeah.
South Carolina, make or break. Thankfully for them, the SEC gives a lot of points by the way that we do our conference rankings, so that helps them a lot. And then obviously Florida, year 1 under Summerall, could be some growing pains, and they have a very tough schedule as well. So that's kind of where I fell into it. But also UCF, I'm expecting them to grow. They could do the exact same thing they did last year, move back. Florida could beat South Carolina. Then the whole thing moves around a bit. What is your 8 through 6?
All right, so we do have 2 teams that are the same here.
Okay.
So we kind of were a little aligned there. We have them in slightly different order, though. So my 8 is a team that you were way less high on, Boston College.
Okay.
Just because, kind of like I said when you were talking about BC, we don't really know what the ACC is going to be this year. I feel like they can eke out a few wins and gain some points that way. I do think having Bill O'Brien call the plays does help them a little bit, instead of him telling somebody else what to call and then getting mad when it's not the way he envisioned it. So they're my 8. UCF is my 7,
Okay.
and then South Carolina is my 6. Um,
Okay.
so I am not crazy higher, but I am higher on Florida than you
Okay. Well, I can only assume that that's probably coming in right here at number 5.
are. They're actually not.
Okay. Well, we'll see who comes in at number 5. My number 5, I believe, has made the biggest jump of any difference we've had so far, and that's going to be Iowa State.
Ooh,
I
okay.
think
Okay.
Iowa State is going to be on the good end of the bounces in year one
Fair enough.
post Matt Campbell. I mean, there's definitely a lot of question marks around this program right now, for sure. Matt Campbell leaving after 10 years, 11 years, 10 years. I mean, he brought that program from nothing, and everything he did was incredible for the Cyclones. And I think that you will still have his fingerprint on that program for a while. Lots of questions being made. I'm not saying this is going to be like best year or second best year that they had under Matt Campbell coming into the season, but I think they are going to win a lot of games and benefit from a not as open as ACC, but
A pretty open conference.
still open middle of the conference. Obviously, the
For
top
sure.
2 teams are
Sure.
the top 2 teams, but like if you told me Iowa State finishes 4th and was like 8-4, 9-3, I could believe it. I think the Cyclones do have that capability. Lots of questions still, but they have the capability.
I like your confidence in the Cyclones. Our guy close to the program would probably appreciate that confidence as well. My number 5 team is a team that I did not want to put here. I will say that I wanted to put them higher, but I put them here because I feel like their conference hurts them in terms of point ceilings, and I'm not sure if they're going to get over the hump and win the conference championship this year. So that is our only non-power team left, the Lobos of New Mexico. So I really, really like New Mexico. I think this is a team that could win 10 games this year. But I feel like UNLV is still kind of the top dog in the Mountain West right now, at least like preseason. They have a ton of questions, don't get me wrong. Um, but I'm just not sure if New Mexico has the offensive firepower to run with UNLV if that comes to a matchup for the conference championship. Um, I don't know. And I feel like Hawaii is kind of a wild card for the Mountain West this year, where like
Wild card, yes.
they are maybe
They
going to
could
be
be
really
fun this
good.
year. They could be very fun.
And I feel like that's a team that like could give a New Mexico team that likes to grind you out and play you slow fits, because Hawaii is Hawaii. They're going to play fast. They're going to air the ball out. I don't know. And Fresno's even like a decent team this year too. So I don't know. I like the Lobos. Oh wait, Fresno's PAC this now. Sorry. My apologies to um my apologies to Fresno State. Didn't mean to bring up tender moments. Um but I don't know. I just feel like New Mexico is going to be very good. I'm just not sure if they're good enough to win the conference championship, which could potentially vault them over some power teams that are going to get more points for conference wins.
Sure. Okay. My number 4, still not the Lobos. Actually, our defending conference champion. I think Duke is going to fall back a few spots. Obviously, you look at the ACC, it's wide open. It's Miami. Then we'll see who they play in Charlotte. Could be SMU, could be
Totally
Duke,
fair.
could be Clemson, could be Louisville. I just don't think Duke has the firepower this year, nor do they have the luck that they did last year as
Fair
well.
enough.
Still a good team, still going to have a good season, just not that good.
Totally fair. I'm in a similar vibe with Duke, although I did place them a little higher. I put Florida at my number 4. So, in this case, I do have Florida beating South Carolina in the head-to-head matchup. I feel like that game being in the swamp does do Florida some favors there, where I do think it's going to be really evenly matched. And, can South Carolina grind out a win on the road against a good team? We don't really know at this point, but I feel like Florida could shock some people this year. I'm not saying college football playoff or anything like that, but I mean, I could see this team winning 8 or 9 games. Like that would not surprise me.
9 games with this schedule, very good year for Florida.
Huge step in the right direction if they can win 9 games this year.
For sure. Okay, so I'll head back west. This will be my group team.
Lobos.
This will be the Lobos in New Mexico. I hear you. I don't agree with you. I think that they are winning the Mountain West this year. I think Jason. I mean, we've talked about Jason Eck. Yeah. I think half of our shows in the last calendar year. Guy's amazing, coming over from Idaho in year 1, doing what he did to a New Mexico program that does not have historic success at all. Built it up in year 1 after losing, a very good quarterback to the portal, bringing in his guys. Got a very sound, tough front 7. Offense can ground and pound. We saw that against UCLA last year. I mean, they went into the Rose Bowl and just ran all over them. I think they only threw for like 180, but why need to when you, I think, ran for 250? So brought back a lot of key pieces that they thought they were going to lose to the portal. I feel like this is New Mexico's conference to lose, and it's just a matter of, can they win outside of the conference to then make a bigger national resume. I think, unfortunately for them, the Mountain West is just it's down this year. Yeah. They're not going to get a lot of help. I think they have to be undefeated to get that chance. I don't think they're at that point. Could realistically see an 11-1 Lobos team. Still don't know if that's enough this year, but they are my number 3 team here in the PAC-South.
Totally fair. Like I said, I am also high on the Lobos. I think this is a really good team. I don't know. We'll see what UNLV even is this year, because that could be a team that, regresses with some change there as well. All right, my number 3 is going to be Duke. Okay. I think it's going to be a good team. Chandler Eggett's a good quarterback. Coming over from San Jose State, and they spent a lot of money on the defensive side of the ball, which was their pitfall last year. So it does seem like you and I have the same number 2 and number 1.
We do have 1 and 2. Yeah. I feel we have to be the same, right?
I think we've got to be the same here. Yeah,
we've got to be the same. Do we want to both go number 1 first?
Sure. So
all right, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Notre Dame. Yeah. All right. No, I mean, they're super good. I mean, Marcus Freeman is just an incredible head coach, and we talked about it in depth, how they should have made the playoff last year. Mm-hmm. Miami making the national title game kind of hurt
it a little bit. But remember, my argument was they should have made it over Bama, not over Miami.
Indeed. You did say that. I didn't, but that's fine. Yeah, I don't know. I think Notre Dame makes the playoff this year. I think they're a top 5 team, probably from start to finish. Realistically, they could win the national title this year. Obviously, once you get into the playoff with the way it's set up now, it's anyone's game, but very good team. They should have been able to compete for one last year as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I look at CJ Carr as a guy who's going to take that next step this year.
Yeah. And not to be forgotten, once again, a bridesmaid last year to this year. The Huskies, still a very good program. Not losing Damon Williams and that whole saga was very big for their chances in the Big Ten this year. I think they are a ceiling 10-2 team.
For sure.
They're 10-2 Big Ten. I can't remember their schedule right now. I know they do have Indiana later in the season.
They do.
That would be a big resume boost if they can pull that win off. probably based on the wins and the losses they would have. A 10-2 Washington team is not guaranteed to get in, but they're on the fringe. And I feel like the progression they've had the last 3 seasons, that's all they could ask for. The question will be what they can do in the transfer portal in the offseason with Jed Fish. I mean, obviously, he's had all his stuff around him as well. 9-win, 10-win UW team. Very happy and very easily our number 2 team here. Unless New Mexico makes a playoff and goes on and wins a couple games. Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. Yeah, I agree. And I'm looking at the Washington schedule right now. It's a really interesting closing stretch. So 3 of their last 4 are against Penn State. And then to end the year, it's home against Indiana and at Oregon. So
gauntlet, actually.
Yeah, this team could be 8-0 heading into that. You've got Michigan State sprinkled in there. That's a win. It could be 8-0 headed into Penn State, right? So
Penn State, you never know. Year 1, Matt Campbell, obviously 2 very tough games. Yeah, wow. Okay, so let's play a little hypothetical. 10-0 Washington. They're probably sitting top 3 if they are.
Yeah.
You lose Indiana, you lose Oregon. Do you fall out of contention?
I think it depends on how badly you lose those games. If they're both close, I think you can reasonably stay. If you get boat raced by both, I don't think you stay. Let's say you get boat raced by Indiana, but then Oregon's probably undefeated headed into that game. You hang with a really good Oregon team. That could win you some points at the end there. Obviously, you wouldn't have to play in a conference championship game, so that can't count against you theoretically. Yeah, I think it depends on the losses.
Okay. There you have it. That'd be very interesting to see at the very end of the season. So, worst team, same. Top 2 teams, same. North Dakota State, also the same.
Yeah.
So, decently aligned. I feel like for at least our polarizing points of our ranking system, the middle ground would be confusing. Iowa State and Florida are 2 differences that we have. So those will be 2 teams to watch throughout. So that is our 2026-2027 college football preview. We will be back again next week. We'll get into a few other of the fall sports. We have soccer kicking off here actually this week, and we'll kind of go into that for our PAC-South teams next week as well, and including any football news we hear between now and then. So until next time, everyone, thank you all so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.